Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Miller coming to you for the DeKalb County Library, and I am on the wrong camera. What can I say? This is Older Americans Month. I, and I'm an older American, so forgive me. This is Older Americans Month, and I usually try to do something that's very a little bit simpler, but still make it beautiful. And I think I've succeeded on this particular project. We're going to make something nice and beachy with some really, really pretty shells. Can we get a close up of those shells? We're going to do some shells. We're going to have some bead chips. We're going to use some jump rings, and we're going to use some 22 gauge wire. And we're going to make a very pretty, I think, necklace. So I thought we would do that. I wanted to show you a really simple way to wrap shells. And I believe I've done something similar to, if not exactly the same wrap before. And then I just do different types of chains to put them on. So I wanted to show you this particular shell wrap again, and if I have in fact done it before, and show you how to make a really pretty chain out of jump rings. That seems to have become my thing, and I'll tell you why. Because I think I ordered like 40,000 jump rings, and now I'm trying to use them in different creative ways. So let's go ahead and look at what we need for this. It's only going to use our normal supplies, our normal tools, our round nose pliers, which are the barrels are round all the way around. They start larger at the bottom and taper up to an almost tip, an almost point near the tip or at the tip. Then we have our square nose pliers that are slightly rounded on the outside, flat on the inside. They make it easy to work with round wire, much easier to control um, and hold the wire than if you're trying to use the round ones. The round ones are good for making veils and loops and things like that. And these are used or are easy for securing and holding your wire and your jump rings, or any other round thing that you're using. The third thing is our cutters, and they do just that. They're going to cut our wire. I wanted to say one more thing about these square pliers. When you get these, there's a couple of kinds. There's the type that has the flat inside here, and there's the kind that has the little ridges or grips on them that are supposed to help you grip your wire. However, we're using very soft wire, so if you get the kind with the grips on it, there's a very good possibility that you could damage the wire. So when you buy these in the store, check to make sure that the inside is flat and doesn't have those grips on it. If you're doing it online, they usually give you different pictures that you'll be able to see whether or not those little ridges are in there, and skip those. Get the ones that are flat. Okay, what else do we need? I think I mentioned everything. I'm using 6 millimeter jump rings. We're going to use some bead chips, some stone bead chips, and 22 gauge wire and a lobster clasp for our clasp at the end of it all. So that is it. Those are the things that we need. And let's go ahead and get down here to the other camera and get started on that. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is wrap our shell. And I am going to the kits will have different sizes of shells. So I wanted to give you a bit of an idea of how much wire you need for each one. I've cut myself 14 inches of wire. It may be more than I need, but I can use them for the links that I need to make. What I usually suggest is that you keep your wire intact and then just cut off what you don't need to use for the rest of your project. But if you don't want to do that, what I would suggest that you do is measure your shell. Mine is about 1 7/8 long. And then I just place my wire over it to see approximately how much space that takes up. And you have to curve it over because you'll be wrapping around the shell. In my case, it's a tad under 2.5 inches for the one side. And then the other side is flat, so that would be about 2 inches. But just to be safe, I would give myself 2.5 inches um, uh, for each side to go around the bead because you have to go across the top and across the bottom. So that's going, one wrap is going to be 5 inches. The second wrap is going to be another 5 inches. So that's 10 inches. I'm giving myself 2 inches for the to make the bail, and I'm going to pop a bead on the top too. So that's 12 inches. And then the other 2 inches I can use to do some more wraps if I want to. But you're better off having more than you need. I would suggest that you go ahead. And again, I have 1 3/4 here. I'm giving myself 2.5 inches and just pop your wire over the top or use a measuring tape or something like that. But be generous with your wire. You don't want to wrap it tightly around here and use that for your measurement. Give yourself a little bit of extra just to be safe. And then you can cut off what you don't need. And if you need 10 inches, let's just say for instance, you need 10 inches or you need a foot, 12 inches of wire. If you give yourself 15 inches and you only use the 12, that 3 inches that you have left is enough to make something else. But if you are really, really stingy with yourself, and then you have to end up cutting off an inch, that's probably going to end up being thrown away. So I'd rather give myself way too much and be able to use what's left than to give myself way just enough and have to waste. My little tip. That's it. Okay, so I got my little 14 inches of wire here. What I'm going to do is measure 2 inches that I'm going to use for my bail at the top. And I'm holding, this is the way I'm holding my shell, is what you might consider to be upside down. This I consider to be right side up, upside down. So I'm going to give myself that 2 inches, which is right there where my thumb is, right there. I'm going to hold it there. And then I'm going to bring the long tail of wire up and over. I'm starting at the right. I'm going to bring it up to the left and wrap it around this little short tail at the top. So I'm going to bring that up there and wrap it nicely around my wire. Now you can wrap it just once or you can wrap it twice. I like to wrap it all the way around. So I'm going to wrap that all the way around and bring it back. To the other side. And now this isn't stable yet. It's going to still wiggle around a little bit. So just be prepared for that. And then I'm going to bring it down the other side like so. Just bring it down the other side. Decide which one of these little grooves you want to run it through. Bring it back up to the other side. So I'm on my left side and I'm bringing it up the back of the wire on the right side. Oops, I shouldn't have let it go. I let it go. There we go. We'll scoot it over just a smidge and over another one of these little rungs. Okay. And then I'm going to wrap it around that top wire again. So there we go. There's my little wrap. That's holding everything together. It's still a little loose, but we're going to take care of that. But while I've got it, I'm holding on to it. I'm going to wrap again around my short wire just because I want a nice couple of wraps and I have enough wire to do it, so why not? Okay, that's enough of that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off and see how I'm pushing this down in the back, nice and firm. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off my wrapping wire, snip that off. And that little sharp tip, I'm going to push down with my square pliers. Get it nice and snug in between the other wires. Okay, now let's go back to the front. See how this is loose? Because we haven't tightened it up yet. So it's still wiggling around a bit. So let's fix that. See, very loose. So I'm going to go to the back, holding onto my wires. And I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to give my wire a little tweak. Now this wire is coming out from left to right. So I'm going to tweak it from left to right. Just to tighten it. There we go. And then the other side is coming out from right to left. So I'm going to tweak it from right to left. And that will take care of this little gap that's in here. I want to turn it around first. Make sure it's laying where I want it. Scooch that over a little bit. I don't want it over quite that far. Okay. Okay. And let's tweak that. Go in there with my, go in there with my pliers and give it a little switch. There we go. So let's see what I've got. Still a little loose. Scoot that over where I want it. So that it's nice and snug. And if it's still a little more wiggly than you want, give it another tweak. There. There. Nice and snug. And you can also give it a little zigzag on the front if you want to. That's entirely up to you. Okay, so now what are we doing up here at the top? I can still shift this around a little bit, not much, because it's tighter now. So now up here at the top, I'm going to put a bead on. I'm using these really pretty fluorite beads. Pretty pretty. Yeah. Can't really see the color very much in the camera unless I get right up. Like this. There we go. Yeah. They're very, very beautiful and iridescent. Okay. So let me see. Which one of those do I want? I think I'm going to use this purple one. I'm going to put that one. Just plop that right here on my wire. Find the little hole. There we go. I'm just going to put that up there. You do not need to put a bead on top if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you. I just thought it would be pretty. So now I'm going to make a bail. So what I'm going to do is bend my wire over to the side right here at the top of my bead, right here at the top. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and I'm going to slide my wire right there in between my pliers. And my pliers are resting right there on the top of my bead. Then I'm going to bring that wire over the top, down the side of my pliers. like so. It's running down the side of the pliers and the bead. Then I'm going to hold on to everything and reposition my pliers. I open them up and reposition them until the pliers are resting on top of the bead. Then I'm going to bring that wire, I'm going to scooch it in between the bead and the pliers until I have a loop. Now my loop is a little misshapen, so let's go back in with the pliers and get that straightened out. There we go. So then I'm going to switch to my square pliers. I'm going to hold on to what I call the face, which is the flat part of my loop. And I'm going to wrap that wire, that tail of wire, around the bottom of my loop, right there in between the bead and wires. It's right there. And you can wrap that as many or as few times as you like. When it gets so short that you can't catch it anymore, I either turn it around or switch to using my round pliers instead of my fingers to continue the wrap as many times as you want, depending on how much wire you want to see at the top. I think the wire is part of the design. I think of it as part of the design. I think it looks pretty, so I'm giving it several wraps. And as a matter of fact, I'm wrapping until I almost run out of wire. Get it down there. Last little bit of wire. And then when I get to where I can't wrap anymore, I'm going to cut that little tip off. Hold on to the tip. You don't want it to go flying. Let's cut that off and push that sharp tip down until it rests in between the folds of the other wraps. There we go. And there is my bail. Now everything is shifting again because we've maneuvered it into a bail. So I'm going to shift it again until it's nice and snug in between these little rows on my beads, which is in this case a shell, and I'm going to push it down in the back so that it's nice and tight. There we go. And this is a bead chip, so this is like leaning because, as you might know, bead chips are very unevenly cut. That's why they're called chips. But that helps, and that's really part of the enhancement. That's what makes them so pretty, because every single one is shaped differently. And there is our nicely wrapped shell we can now use for a pendant. There it is. I'm getting a lot of glare. I hope you're not getting that. Let's see if we can get some of this a little. Here we go. There's my little shell. So there's my pendant. Yay. So now what are we going to do with it? We're going to put it on a necklace. So we're going to use a lot of jump rings. I'm using 6mm jump rings, and we're just going to make a nice double jump ring chain. And by double, I mean we're just going to use 2 jump rings for each of our lengths. So we're doing a double length. So I've got a lot of 6mm jump rings here. They're closed. Then I have a lot of a few 6mm jump rings that are open. I find that it's easier to go ahead and open some of them up because you're going to have to be opening and closing. If you have some already open, then you don't have to put your pliers down to open another jump ring and then pick them up again when it's time to connect. So I've got several open jump rings here. I've got several closed jump rings, and then I've got a whole bunch of jump rings that I can draw from, but I want to have some ready, and then I'm going to show you how to open and close your jump rings properly. Now, I don't know if this is very clear, but what you want your jump rings to look like. There we go. You want the little tips of your jump rings to meet. You don't want them overlapping. You want them backed up against each other. And if you can look at this, you can see that these jump rings are overlapping. So how do I fix that? Put it away, otherwise my camera won't focus. So how do I fix that? What I do is take one plier on one side. I like to use the square pliers to hold my jump ring because that will hold them nice and tight. If I use my round ones, they're gonna wiggle all over the place. So I think it's easier. Let me turn this down a little. So I think it's easier to hold with my square pliers and manipulate it with my round pliers. If you have two pairs of square pliers, even better. Okay, so I'm going to fix this little jump ring. I'm going to fix this jump ring so that the little tips are meeting each other and not overlapping. So what I'm going to do is grab one side of my jump ring with my square pliers, and then the other side of my jump ring with my round pliers. And what I usually like to do is bring the square pliers in towards the middle of the side of the jump ring, and the round pliers, I line it up on the side of the jump ring going towards the top of it where the opening is. So there's my little opening. There's my round pliers on the side, my square pliers also on the side, but they're facing inward. So what I'm going to do now is kind of open and close it and pull just a little bit, just enough to get it to where the tips are bypassing each other and just barely scraping. So once I've done that, I have my jump ring lined up the way it should be instead of like this. This is what I don't want. I don't want these little tips bypassing each other. So I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm going to point my square pliers towards the middle and my round pliers towards the top. I'm going to hold on to both sides, and I'm going to open and close and just kind of shift them back and forth until they bypass each other and they're meeting instead of overlapping. Just a little bit more. Yes, there we go. And if I need to, just kind of fine tune it a little bit and get it as close to meeting as you can. There we go. Nice. And then I'm going to open this because now I'm going to start my chain. So what I'm going to do is grab one of my closed jump rings, slide it inside, and the second closed jump ring, and slide it inside. There we go. And then I'm going to do two more. One, and 2. So I'm putting 4 closed jump rings on the 1 open jump ring. And once I've got those on there, I'm going to twist the jump ring closed. There we go. Nice. Now I need another open jump ring, and I'm going to slide that on all 4 of these jump rings that are hanging from the single jump ring. So I'm going to slide that through all 4 jump rings. Make sure you catch them all. Here we go. Check, make sure they're all in there. And close. Now the other way you can close this, if your jump rings are big enough, and in this case they really are, you can twist it. You can use your fingers instead of the other plier to twist it closed. There we go. So now I have, all right, now I'm going to do that again so that you can see what I just did. So I have 2 jump rings that are holding 4 jump rings. So I have my 2, and then I have my 4 inside the 2. So what I need to do to make my chain is spread them out. So I'm going to grab 2 of my jump rings on one side and 2 on the other side. And let me lay those out, see if you can see them. I just need 3 sets of 2. 2, 2, and 2. Here we go. So that is the first part of my chain. Now I could stop there. I could make this my chain and then do some links, but I'm going to add 2 more sets just so that I can have 5 sets of 2. So I'm going to grab another open jump ring, and I'm going to put 2 closed jump rings on it. Right? And then I'm going to connect it to 2 of the jump rings that are on the end of my chain. So there I have 4 jump rings inside of the 1 open one, and I'm going to twist it closed. Then I'm going to grab another open jump ring, slide it through those 4 jump rings that are inside the single one, and twist it closed. And now I have 4 sets of 2. Spread that out so it's a little more visible as a chain. There we go. 5, I said 4, 5 sets of 2 jump rings, and that is one of my little sections of chain. So I'm going to put that to the side. I need to do another one of those. I may as well go ahead and do it, but I'm going to wait because I'm going to move on to my link for my bead. So I'm going to use one of these pretty little chips, and I'm going to make a link. Let me see, is this enough? I have this little bit left over. Yeah, I think it is. Let me see how much I have. Now what I need is about 1.25 inches, an inch, really an inch is enough, but give yourself a little extra if you want to, on each side, plus whatever my bead measures. And if you put more than 1 bead on, you need to be aware of what you need, but I need on one side, I'm going to say 1 inch on each side of my bead, and then however much space my bead takes up. In this case, it's probably going to be less than 1/4 of an inch. So that's 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to say. And I've got 2 inches that I need, one on each side. So that's 2 1/4 inches. And I have 2 3/4 of an inch. So I have plenty. So what I'm going to do is just bend my wire back and give myself a good inch of wire, bend it, grab my round nose pliers, and I'm going to make a loop. We're going to make a wrapped loop. So I'm grabbing my round nose pliers, slide my wire in between the pliers like so. That nice short tail is right in between the jaws of the plier. I'm going to bring that short tail over the top and down the side until it's resting against the other wire. Now I don't need too big a loop, so I'm just going down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. And it's hard for me to tell you how far down to go because all pliers are not created equal. So whereas mine might take 1/3 of the way down the pliers, yours might be thinner over here or thicker over here. So this is going to be one of those things that you have to work out for yourself. But in my case, I'm going 1/3 of the way down my pliers. The further back I go towards the hilt, the bigger my loop is going to be. You need to decide how big you want your loop to get to be. So my short tail of wire is running alongside the long tail. I'm going to hold on to both of my wires, and without shifting them, I'm going to open my pliers up, reposition them towards me, and then close back down and bring that short tail of wire under the pliers and over to the side until I have a loop. So there's my little loop. I'm going to grab my square pliers, hold on to the face of my loop, which is the flat part, and I'm going to take that short tail and wrap it around the longer tail. Just wrap it around that stem as many times or as few times as you want, or as many times as you can to use up as much wire as you want to use. I would give myself at least 1.5 wraps to make sure that your loop is securely closed. And then take your cutters, cut off what you don't need, that tip. Grab your square pliers again and find that sharp edge there and push it down against the other wraps so that it won't snag on anything. I always like to check it with my finger. If I can feel it, then I need to keep working on it until it's pushed down nice and strong against the other wraps. There we go. Now I'm going to grab my bead, slide it onto my wire like so, and then I'm going to make a loop on the other side. I want my loops to be going in the same direction, so I'm going to bend the wire in the same direction that the flat of my loop is going. So I'm going to bend that over to the side, grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire about 1/3 of the way down my pliers again, like I did the first one. Bring it over the top, down the side until it's running parallel to my bead, right there along the side of my bead. Hold on to the bead and the wire, and without shifting anything, open the pliers up, reposition them towards me, and bring that tail of wire over to the side towards me also until I have a loop. Switch to my square pliers, clamp down on the face of my loop, and wrap. And you can count the number of wraps if you want, or you can just keep wrapping until you don't want to wrap anymore. I think that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and snip that little tail off. I always hold on to the tail so it doesn't go flying across the room. And there it is. And that little tip, I'm going to push down with my square pliers. Nice and there we go. And there's my little link that I'm going to attach to this bit of chain. So let's do that. How do we do that? Oh my goodness. I need to attach this to this. How? What I do is find my openings, the openings of my jump ring. The last link on my chain. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can open one and slide the bead on and then open the other one and slide the bead on, or you can do them both at the same time. So you can open one, put the bead on, close, open the other one, put the bead on and close. It's up to you how you do it. I'm going to show you the double method. Find the little opening. That's the fun part. Where's the opening? I want to see if I can find it in the camera. Where are you? There it is. Okay, so there's the opening for the one. And here's the opening. Is that the opening? No, it's not the opening. Find the opening for the other one. I use my fingernail, scrape along there until I feel it. If I can't see it, there it is. There's the one, there's the other one. Now, what I'm going to do is open each one of them. Let's get really close. Get real close to the camera. So I'm going to open each one of these and then put my bead on. So I'm going to open one. I'm holding the loop so that these don't all shift to all of these other jump rings don't shift. So I'm going to twist that open, and I'm going to twist the second one open and grab my bead and slide it on both of my jump rings. There's the one, there's the second one, and then I'm going to close them. Now you want to make sure you don't get these jump rings linked together. So I always start with the one that's furthest from me first because I twisted it open towards me. I'm going to twist it closed away from me. And so I'm going to go with the one that's furthest from me first, twist that closed. And then the one in front of that, I can grab that. I can drop that one so that I don't have to worry about it. Drop that one off to the side and close the other one. Here we go. And there's my little connector. Nice, isn't it? Okay, so I don't know. I enjoy myself. All right, so I need to do a second one. So let's go ahead and do that here. Grab some more jump rings. So I need more. I think I have enough. All right, I'm going to open a couple more. So let's open these up. I'm going to twist using one plier and my finger and thumb. Okay, and twist. And I'm going to grab a couple of these closed jump rings and put them on the open jump ring. That's two, and I need two more. There we go. Close that up. Nice. And I'm going to hold on to that, grab another one of my open jump rings and slide it onto the four. So four of them are on my open jump ring, and I'm going to close that up. Nice and snug. Go. So there's the first part of my little chain. Two, two, and two. And I need four more. So I'm going to take another open jump ring, add 2 of the closed jump rings, and find one end of my 3 link chain, slide 2 of those jump rings onto the single jump ring along with the 2 that I already put on, and twist it closed. And let's do the same with another open jump ring. Now you can go back and clean up these jump rings later to make sure that they're closed the way you want them. So now I need to grab another open jump ring and slide it through these 4 closed jump rings to go along with the one that I've already got in there. You've got to make sure you get it through all 4 of them. There we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And twist it closed. There we go. Here we have another 5 link double jump ring chain. I need another one of these guys. So let's go ahead and do another bead chip link. Again, I bend my wire over to the side, slide my wire in between the jaws of my pliers about 1/3 of the way down, bring that short tail over the top and down the side of the pliers. Then I'm going to hold on to my wire, open up my pliers, reposition them towards me, and bring the wire under the pliers and over to the side towards me until I have a loop. Switch to my square pliers, hold on to the face of my loop, and wrap as few or as many times as you want, or as many times as you use wire. There we go. And clip off that little end that I don't need. Grab my square pliers and push down that end that I can feel right there. Nice and snug. There we go. Yeah. Grab my bead. Now, I always say leave your wire intact. Then you don't have to cut as much. So I've got this nice long piece of wire that I'm using to make my link. And then when I get to this part where my bead is on, I'm going to bend my wire over to the side, just like I did the first time. And now I can cut this off. I know I need about 1 inch. So cut that off. You can measure it or eyeball it. Cut it down to about 1 inch. Get rid of the other wire to use later. Slide my wire between my pliers about 1/3 of the way down my pliers like we've been doing all along. Bring that wire over the top of my pliers. This is weird. It's a little dark. Bring it over to the side until it's running alongside my bead. Hold on to the bead and the wire. Open my pliers up. Reposition them towards me and bring the wire over towards me until I have a loop. Grab my square pliers, hold on to the base of my wire or of my loop, and wrap the wire around between the pliers and the bead right under my loop. As many or as few times as you want, or until you run out of wire. Okay, that's good. I'm going to clip off that excess. Okay, get rid of that and push down that little tip. Until it's nowhere near sticking out. There we go. And I'm going to attach it to this other part of my chain that I just made, this other little section of chain. Find my little openings. I think it's over there. Scoot that around. There we go. There's one. And there's the other. I'm going to twist them open towards me one at a time. Should I show you how to do them one at a time? Yeah, let me show you how to do them one at a time. I showed you how to do them both at the same time the first time. This time I'm going to show you one at a time. Let's do it. Let me see. I can. All right. So I've got both of my loops here. Both of my little openings are up here near the top. Here's one. There's the other. So I'm going to open them one at a time. So I'm going to open the one that's closest to me first. I lost my little opening. Where is it? It's so tight, which is great that I can't find it. There it is. Okay, I'm going to twist it open and slide my bead on. Then I'm going to twist this one open. There's a little bit of a gap that I don't want. There. I'm going to twist this one open. And I'm going to slide this one over that second one. So now I've done them. Well, I could have closed this one up, but I didn't. So let's go ahead and close the one furthest from me first, twisting away from me. Make sure that's nicely closed. Hold on to the other one. Let the first one that's already closed go, and twist that second one closed. There. There's a second nice little length of my chain. There we go. Nice. You can see where we're going. Now, let's attach it to the rest of my beautiful little chain. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the last two jump rings on my chain. Open them up. This one needs a little bit of work here. There. So once again, I'm going to find the openings, open each of my jump rings, slide on my bead, making sure that the jump rings are separate and not intertwined. I close up the one. I'm almost finished. My clock is saying, get a move on. Close up the one. And close up the other. I like to drop the first one that I closed over to the side so it doesn't accidentally get entangled in the second one. That's my way of knowing that they are actually separated. There we go. Get that nice and tight. There. Let's go to the other side and attach to those last two links. Find the opening. There it is. Open them up. Open one, open the other, slide on my bead. You slide one on and the other one on. Make sure you got them both. Where's the second one? Let's take that. Let's just take that off. And 5 white openings again. There we go. And my bead. Slide the one on. And find the other opening and slide it on. There we go. Close the one. Nice and snug. Yes. Grab the other one, close it up. Nice and snug. There. Nice. Look at that. Isn't that a pretty chain? Now you want to do as many of these as you want to make your chain. Just as many of them as you want. You can make more than 5 jump rings and jump ring links, double jump ring links in between if you want. You can do 3, you can do 5, you can do as few or as many as you want. Okay. So let's go ahead and attach it to our shell. So I'm going to use the same formula that I did to attach the beads to my chip link. I'm going to find my openings, open each of those jump rings up. One and two, and attach it to my shell. Just slide that shell loop into both of my open loops and close each one individually. Now I need to do the same thing on the other side. Open up both of my little links here, right there on the end. Find the openings. Come on, where is it? Let's roll that around here. There we go. Open the one, open the second one. I really am almost finished. My clock is saying, come on, you're just taking too long. Okay. And let's slide that on the other side of my shell loop, my little bail. Oops. Make sure that my jump rings aren't crossed over. I do not want them intertwined. I want them to be 2 separate entities. Oh, look at that. I lost one. Oh, okay. Cautionary tale. Okay, I lost one. I'm just going to go ahead and attach the one that's on there, the 80. Close it up. Make sure it's nice and neat and tidy. And then I will add the other one back in. So if something like that happens, don't panic. It's easily fixed. Just follow the same path as the first one, slide it. I'm going from knee, front to back, and then I'm going through the two jump rings. So I slid it front to back through the pendant veil, and then back to front through the two jump rings. The pendant veil is that loop at the top of the shell. And then I close that up, nice and snug. And there we are, nicely attached. So now all I need to do, depending on how long you make this, if it's long enough, you can pop it over your head. If not, we need a jump ring. And for that, what we need to do is go back here. I already put it on. I will take it off. I need to go back to my very last loops on my link chain. And when you finish this, you're going to have, just like all of the other links, you're going to have two sets or five sets of two jump rings. So in order to hook your lobster clasp, you need one jump ring because these holes are too small in the lobster clasp for two of these jump rings to go through. And on the other side, the lobster clasp is going to attach to one jump ring because if you have two, it's going to be hard for you to see behind your back whether or not you've got both of those jump rings in there. So I would suggest taking one of the jump rings off of each side of your chain in order to connect your clasp. So I'm going to go down here to my last jump ring, open it up, slide my lobster clasp on, just slide that in through the open jump ring and close it. There we go. And you're all set. So now all you have to do is open up your lobster clasp and connect it to the jump ring on the other side. And there it is. There is your necklace. Isn't that neat? Oh, it looks so nice and lacy and summery, I think. We're heading there. Let's put it on a form and see what it looks like. One second. There it is. There's our pretty shell necklace. There it is. Isn't that awesome? And so simple. You just make those, you make as many links as you want in between with your jump rings, and it looks like a perfectly beautiful chain. I love this so much. We are summer ready, folks. Okay, there it is. There's our piece for the day. I'm trying to get it where I'm seeing glitter. I hope that you're not. But I hope this was simple enough that you'll consider making several of these. These would be great on vacation. Oh, and you know what? You could do this same type of thing with rocks. I always say that. I love that. I saw somebody with a piece of bark that they wrapped. It was just a memento from a vacation. You can do so much with wire. I absolutely am in love with everything that I can do with um, some basic craft wire. The things that you can do, the things that you can make, and then you make yourself a nice little jump ring chain, and there you are. So there's our piece for the day. I hope you like this, and I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I would love to hear from you and hear what you think, what you thought one way or the other. All of the information to get in touch with me is down there in the on the YouTube page. You're already there, so you know how to get to YouTube. But you can also leave pictures and comments on the library Facebook page. You can send information to me, comments to me, and pictures to me on my Gmail page. All of that information is listed in the description of this tutorial. So until next time, I hope you have a great week, an even more fantastic weekend, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.